We've talked about using a microphone to capture the sound in the air and bring it into our DAW, into our interface, and then to our DAW. Another thing you're likely to record is going to be an electric guitar or electric bass. And a microphone was an input transducer that was converting the sound pressure variations into voltage variations. The pickup on an electric guitar or bass is also an input transducer, but it's functioning in a different way. And because of that, the levels are different and the type of signal is slightly different. And it poses some issues when trying to get the signal from a guitar or bass into your DAW. So I'd like to show you a couple options on how to actually connect and record an electric guitar or electric bass. Now, the output cable from an electric guitar or electric bass is the 1/4-inch TS cable that we're used to. But the signal coming out of an electric guitar or bass is not the same as a typical line level. So the tendency would be to plug this right into a line in, but that's not going to really work. You're going to need an input designed specifically for a guitar or bass. It might be called an instrument input, a direct input, or a high Z, high impedance input. Now luckily, my audio interface here has these interesting connectors that we looked at our XLR before, but they also have kind of the ability to plug a 1/4-inch cable in the middle. And we see right next to this, it says instrument underneath this. So this is an input designed specifically for an instrument and can be used to plug in a guitar or bass with a pickup. So if you have an input like that, you can connect your guitar or bass and set your levels similarly to how we did with the microphone. Now, phantom power will not be necessary. You don't have to power these via phantom power, so you won't have that kind of on-off switch that we had with the condenser microphone. So connecting a guitar or bass will be the same as before, in that we take our input trim and turn that all the way down. I would also suggest turning down your speakers in your room to prevent any clicks and pops through your system. We connect our guitar or bass to our device. And again, just make sure that the device is designed for an instrument. And then we play and set levels just like we did before. So it's the same exact procedure. Now, this is fine, and you can record this way, but there are a couple issues involved in it. The first one is there will always be some delay, or what we call latency. And we'll get into this in more depth next week. But right now it's good to know that the computer can really only do one thing at a time. And anytime you play through it, it's going to be a little bit of delay before it comes out of the speakers. Now, when recording a vocal or an acoustic guitar, it's not really a big deal because we hear ourselves in the air. If I'm singing, I hear my own voice. If I'm playing an acoustic guitar, I really hear the acoustic guitar in the air, and it's not really a problem that there is that slight delay. When recording an electric bass or electric guitar, though, that signal coming out of the speakers is the only thing we're really hearing. And because it's delayed, it can really hurt the performance, and that there is that kind of lag, and you can never really groove when there's that bit of delay, or what we call latency. We'll talk next week on how to reduce some of that latency within the computer, but it will never go away entirely. So what this brings up is the need to monitor your signal outside of the computer. And monitor is a word we'll use numerous times in the class, but it means to listen, or listen to playback. In fact, the speakers you have in a studio are called your studio monitors, and the speakers on the stage facing you as you play are your stage monitors. So monitor is to listen. So when recording an electric guitar or bass, while you can plug directly into a computer, it's best to be able to monitor outside of the computer. And that's where an amplifier can really come in handy. So instead of plugging directly into the interface, we can use an amplifier so that we can hear the sound in the room and then go from that into our interface. Now, there's a couple ways we can accomplish this, and I want to go through a variety of ways. The first way would be to plug the bass or guitar into your amplifier and put a microphone in front of the amplifier and record that into your interface. And that's a very common way to record, and it really is a great option. The benefits of that is you'll get the sound of the amp, and really, the amp makes up an integral part of the sound of any electric guitar or bass performance. You never really hear the sound of the bass without the amp, you know? It's just part of the sound. So recording with a microphone makes a lot of sense. The downside of that is that you will get the sound of your room in there. Remember, every time you're recording with a microphone, you're recording the signal, but also recording the room it's in. So if you're not in an acoustically perfect room, then you might not want to put a mic in front of your amplifier. Also, having a mic in a room does it makes recording a bit harder. There's the chance of feedback with your monitors, there's the chance of just noise and moving around you hear, so it's nice to be able to record direct. And by direct, I mean plug directly into your system, your interface, or into a DI box, or right into your amplifier, and using a line out. So you'll find many amplifiers allow you to plug into the amplifier and on the back have a line out. And let's look at how that would work. Again, when you're disconnecting your gear, you want to make sure that you turn the input gain all the way down and probably want to turn off your speakers as well. So I'll turn the input gain down on my interface all the way and I'll disconnect my bass. So we can plug our bass or guitar into our amplifier, and because it is an amp designed for bass or guitar, it's always going to work with an instrument input, right? It's not designed for a line input. This amplifier on the back has a variety of 1/4-inch connectors, and we want to make sure we use the right one. There is one that says line out, and that's the one you have to use. There are another two on the back of this one that say speaker out, and it's essential that you never hook a speaker output to any line in any of your gear. The speaker out are very, very high levels. They're designed to be hooked directly to a speaker and give you all that volume, so you really don't want to connect those to a line input. So I'm going to take the line out from my amplifier and plug it into my interface. And this is using a standard 1/4-inch instrument cable, a TS cable. Line out from the amplifier into the interface. And like usual, we use the same exact procedure. I had already turned the input gain all the way down, and now I can increase that gain and set my levels as usual. The benefit of this is that when I play through my amplifier, I will hear it in real time, right out of the amplifier without any latency, and I'll get a nice solid signal going into the computer. The other benefit of this is I'm using the preamp that's built into the amplifier here, and this preamp in any amplifier colors the signal a bit. So it might not sound exactly like an amplifier does when you hear it through the speaker of the amp, but it does get some of that character. You get some of the distortion in a guitar amp, and you get some of that nice compression that you get using a bass amp like this. So that's a really good option if your amplifier does have a line out. Now, not all amplifiers have a line out. And there's one more option that works really well, and that's to utilize a direct box. And let's see how we would do that. The first thing I'll do now is just kind of disconnect what I have. I'll turn the input gain on my interface all the way down and disconnect that. And I'm going to disconnect my guitar from my amplifier here as well. Again, just like we did with our interface, I want to make sure the input gain on my amp is all the way down to prevent clicks and pops from coming out of the amplifier. Getting the idea of this, right? Always turn the gain all the way down, then disconnect and connect things, then turn the gain up. Kind of makes sense, right? Avoid those clicks and pops. So a direct box, like we saw before, provides us a way to go from 1/4-inch to XLR. And another thing that it does that's really important is it matches the impedance of a guitar or bass and allows it to be plugged into a line in. The level will still be very low, but it gets that impedance correct, which is that what they're really saying with the instrument in or the direct in. If we look at a direct box, we're going to see that it has 2 1/4-inch jacks and 1 XLR jack. We'll take the output of the guitar directly into the direct box to one of those 1/4-inch inputs. I can then take the XLR out and go to my interface. Now, because this is coming from a bass, the level will probably be quite low, and you'll have to use a little bit more gain than maybe with a microphone on your interface. But if you have a bass or guitar with active pickups, it could be quite high. The level setting procedure will be the same as with a microphone. Now, we could just record like this, and the benefits of this also, if I not even use the amp at all, is I can use a short 1/4-inch cable, say very close to me, and if I have to go a long distance to the studio, I can use a long XLR cable, so we'll have that reduced noise that I'm using a balanced cable for a long run, which is excellent. So even just this has some benefits. But since I do have that parallel output, that secondary 1/4-inch cable, I can go from there into my amplifier. And then I can hear out of the amp in real time. The direct box is being plugged into my interface. I can set the gain as usual, and I'm ready to record my guitar or bass. This method really is preferred. You're going to get a very clean signal from your guitar or bass, And then if you want to go to the step further, many people would actually put a microphone in front of this and get both signals and be able to use them both and choose between them later in their DAW.